Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question's to the Prime Minister. Does he stand by his statement, quote, "The government prioritised funding increases to health and education, in part because we recognise the fundamental role these public services play in lifting children out of poverty," end quote. If so, how many children are expected to be lifted out of poverty as a result of this year's funding?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes. In particular, I stand by the actions we have taken to improve the lives of children, including the following: 3,500 new places in ECE in low participation areas. We've increased GP subsidies, so now that 95% of high needs children aged 6 and under have free GP visits. Plunket Line is now fully funded 24/7. Immunisation rates have gone from 73% to 90%. The number of children getting before school checks has gone from 3,000 under Labor to over 100,000 under my government. Massive progress has been made in home insulation, particularly for poorer families. I could go on, Mr Speaker, but I can't say exactly how much these actions will improve child poverty, but I know they'll be a lot more effective than having a Minister of Children.
The Honourable Annette King.
Supplementary question, Mr Speaker. What official advice has he received on the number of children that are classified as living in poverty in New Zealand, and has he sought advice on the costs to taxpayers each year as a result of that poverty? If not, why not?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I may be incorrect, but I don't think there's one official measure of poverty for children in New Zealand. I think the government uses a range of different indicators. So in some of those indicators I've seen as high as 1 in 5. That might be explained, Mr Speaker, in one part because there are about 320,000 New Zealanders of working age on a benefit, supporting some 228,000 children. And for the most part, those children probably are deemed to be in households which, for a developed economy like New Zealand, would consider to be poverty.
The Honourable Annette
question,
King.
Mr Speaker. Does he agree with the Minister for Social Development, who said today that a report from the Child Poverty Action Group released yesterday is a political document and a rehash of work already done? And does this mean that the government intends to disregard their recommendations?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, yes, and no, it doesn't mean it will be totally disregarded, but not all of the actions will be followed.
The Honourable Annette King.
What did he use to measure poverty and an underclass in New Zealand when he was in opposition? And if he was using figures from Child Poverty Action then, as Bill English was, why won't he accept Child Poverty Action figures now?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, I don't think the debate's necessarily about the figures, it's about some of the recommendations. But Mr Speaker, we use the same measures as we used then, and the measures we use are a variety of different indicators, all through from the Household Labour Force Survey through to a number of other measures that the government would use, like lack of immunisation and other measures.
The Honourable Annette King.
Mr Speaker, does he still disagree with UNICEF, who called the 2010 Children's Social Health Monitor deeply concerning, as he did in the House in December 2010, and is he still unconcerned with child poverty growing under his government in the last 3 years, as shown in the 2011 Children's Social Health Monitor released last week?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr Speaker, well, I can't recall the first document, so I need to go back and refresh my mind of that. In terms of the latter point, well, like I say, I haven't refreshed my memory on that. In terms of the latter point, I've never argued that I'm satisfied, if that was the words that the member used, unconcerned. I've never argued I'm unconcerned. Actually, I'm deeply concerned about every child in New Zealand that's in poverty. One of the reasons why we ran deficits, even though I think David Cunliffe was arguing that we should have slashed working for families and therefore not run a deficit before, was exactly to keep those poor children. We won't slash working for families. We won't hurt those vulnerable children, Mr Cunliffe, like you were suggesting a few questions ago we should.
The Honourable Annette King.
Does the Prime Minister still believe that working for families is communism by stealth, as he said when he was in opposition, and said that he would change, but changed his mind when he got into government?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Absolutely I do, when the abatement rates are 102% of income, and I'm pleased to say we're a government that actually effectively dealt with that issue.
The Honourable John Boscawen. Order. The Honourable John Order. The Honourable John Boscawen.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Supplementary to the Prime Minister. does he agree lifting New Zealand children out of poverty is critical to achieving ACT and National's joint goal of catching Australia's income per head by 2025?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Absolutely it is, because if one can lift average incomes, then on that basis more and more people will benefit from those higher incomes, and therefore there'll be greater support for those families. And in the end, that's why I think both parties agree with sensible economic policies which will advocate for that case.
Supplementary.
Materia Ture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister agree with the Child Poverty Action Group that successive governments, Labour and National, have failed the poorest children in New Zealand with discriminatory Working for Families tax credits, and will he commit to ending this discrimination against our poorest children and their families?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the member will appreciate that matter is before the courts at the moment, so I'm quite limited in what I can say, except to say as an overarching principle, when in-work tax credits were introduced by the former Labour government, it was to ensure that there was always a difference between working and welfare, and that strikes me as a sensible concept.
Materia Ture.
Is the Minister not aware, Prime Minister not aware, that of the MSD report that shows for every 5 children living in poverty, 2 are in households that earn an income through work, which clearly shows that work is not the solution to poverty, because wages are kept so low by his and successive governments so that working parents cannot even afford the basics for their kids?
The Right Honourable Prime
Minister. Maybe I can answer the question by asking a question. If the way to get out of poverty is not work, why are the vast bulk of people who are working not in poverty?
Supplementary.
Materia Ture.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the Prime Minister agree that setting bold targets, just as the government did with the historical treaty settlements, that setting bold targets provides a clear focus for policy that increases the chance of success? And if so, will he join with the Green Party in setting a goal to bring at least 100,000 children out of poverty by 2014?
The Right Honourable Prime Minister.
Mr. Speaker, no, we won't be joining with the Green Party, but our goal is certainly to lift as many youngsters out of poverty as we can.
Question number 5, Amy Adams.